Commander Worf likes his blood wine very young and very sweet. Chief O'Brien likes his whiskey a single malt, preferably something from the Highlands. And Lieutenant Tom Paris walks across Jadzia Dax's arms. Or maybe that was a different lizard. Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Okay. Hello.
We are joined by a very special guest today, Mr. David Livingston, director and producer of several Star Trek shows. Actually, David, though, I do have at least one writer question for you that you may or may not be able to answer, but we'll get into that a little later. Okay. Today, we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 16, Change of Heart, written by Mr. Ronald D. Moore, directed by, what do you know, David Livingston. This was March 4th, 1998. How you guys doing?
Great. That was another century ago.
Yeah. Doing well. Crazy. Good to see you, David. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Great to see you, Cirroc.
It's my pleasure. Working with you, we've come across your name now as we reviewed these episodes several times. So it's an honor and pleasure to have you on. We've had many questions to ask you. Specifically the Visitor, which was so impactful for us as we watched it, and in your imprint and impact on making that possible. But yeah, thank you very much, Dave, for being here, man. You really left a big impression on me as a director, and the times that I worked with you, I remember very vividly, in a good way.
That's good, because not all the actors always remembered it so favorably. But thank you. I tend to have a little bit of OCD when I'm directing and push the envelope a little bit too much sometimes. But thank you for that, Cirroc. I appreciate that.
David, before we get too deep into this, I need to retract a statement. You are a writer. You do have a writing credit for the Negus, I believe it was, Deep Space Nine episode. So I should not have said not a writer. You have at least one writing credit on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This guy can do it all, folks. He's going to be at the Super Bowl halftime show spinning plates and this guy can handle anything.
That's me.
Also, line producer, supervising producer, and your name has come out of our mouth more times than almost anybody. And man, I'm so glad that we finally got you, because we talk about you all the time in your episodes all the time. So, but yeah, real quick, you guys were talking about The Visitor and the panel that you guys did with Tony Todd and Rachel Robinson, I believe it was, and others. That was so cool. Amazing that you got Tony to do it. Any final thoughts on it as a retrospective?
It was just great to see everybody that I hadn't seen in so long. Tony and I periodically see each other at a local market, and he's always so gracious, and I'm so fond of him. And when I asked him to appear on this panel for the Trek Talks event that we did for the Hollywood Food Coalition, he graciously accepted, and we were able to track down Rachel through her father, Andy Robinson, and she appeared, and Cirroc. So thank you, Cirroc. It was great to have that community. One thing we didn't talk about, Cirroc, I don't know if you remember, but we talked about you playing the Tony Todd part. Do you remember that discussion at all?
I do remember that discussion. And I actually remember getting into makeup, and they did that whole aging process on me to try to make me look like the old Jake. And I remember going into Rick Berman's office as the, after they had done it all, so he could see if it was believable or not. But I think I was too young to pull that off, and I'm glad that Tony Todd was enlisted, and I thought he brought the work, his A game to the table, and just made it believable and authentic. So I'm glad that he was able to join us for this storytelling and do the older Jake parts.
Mm. And not to be lost in this discussion is everybody at home, be sure to donate to the Hollywood Food Coalition. Mr. David Livingston is a staunch supporter of it. And you also help out, don't you?
I'm on the board of directors.
Wow.
Along with John Billingsley, or better known as Dr. Phlox from Enterprise. So yes, thank you. Also, I wanted to mention you brought up my sole writing credit. It was a story credit for the Nagus, and the only part of my story that was used was the B story where Cirroc teaches Aron to read. I don't know if you remember that particular,
of course,
but that's the piece that they liked. The whole Godfather story was an invention by Ira, who Michael Piller said. I went to the story break because as the writer of the story, I got to go to the break. And Michael Piller said, let's do the Godfather. And the bulb went off in everybody's head. And I remember Michael Piller turning to Ira and saying, Ira, write the Godfather over the weekend. and that Monday I got the Godfather in my hand. So it was quite a gift. It was a lot of fun to do that episode. Not only the B story with you and Aron, bless his heart, but to do Quark playing Marlon Brando.
Cirroc, how often do we and our fans and associate producers mention that iconic scene of you teaching Nog how to read? I can't believe that was you, David.
Yeah, that was my idea.
Wow, awesome.
Very great idea. I really think that it told the story of the friendship between the two of them. And I also like that, Jake is helping his friend, trying to overcome something as difficult as illiteracy. So kudos to you for writing that. I think it's a special moment between Jake and Nog that solidifies their bond. And, this relationship between two species of aliens that have never, commingled and intertwined in that kind of way, I thought was important to tell the story of, because that's what we are all trying to do, is find common ground and find the things that we agree on or things that we're alike, as opposed to the differences that we have. And that's one of the things that I thought was special about that story, David. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, and well said. And you talked about the visitor. It was the same kind of dynamic that you have with Nog and the visitor, where he was trying to help you get through what you were experiencing with your father's death. So that relationship continued on, and it would have been nice to have done even more with that relationship. But I'm grateful that we got to do the parts of that relationship that we indeed did cover. So great. And I know that you guys became, fast friends, and he's such a loss to all of us and to the Star Trek community. He was the loveliest. He was just the loveliest guy. Can I say one other thing? I did the episode where I know we're going to talk about Change of Heart, but I did You're Cordially Invited, the wedding scene.
Yes.
And Aron came. There was supposed to be a dance that was indicated in the script.
The legendary dance.
Right. And Aron came to me. I can't take credit for it, because Aron came to me and he says, David, I don't know what dance to do. Can you tell me, let's speak. What dance do I do? And I said, Aron, you do whatever you want to do. I want to see what you give me. And it was magic. To see he and Terry Farrell dancing is one of my great delights on a set. It was so charming, so innocent, and so beautiful, and so Aron. Aron just put his heart and soul into that dance, and I was so thrilled. So kudos to him. That was all him. He pulled that off entirely on his own, created it all.
Wow. Yeah, that is good, legendary.
Yeah, and I know, David, this really kind of dawned on me while we're talking now, which is going from the Nagus and the Nog Jake teaching him how to read scene, and then going over to this "You're Cordially Invited," which was a very intimate look about these personal relationships between the characters. The Visitor, again, very intimate, emotionally rich insight into characters. And now watching Change of Heart, I felt the same thing. I mean, there were moments when I felt emotionally connected to the performance and to the magnitude of the event that was taking place. Is that something that you, is that something that interests you, telling these very emotional stories and getting into the minutia of that?
I love doing those stories, but I can take no credit for choosing them because as an episodic director, it's the luck of the draw. You don't know what you're slotted in by the executive producer into a certain number. And what script falls to that number, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Scary.
To be able to direct the Nagus, where I provided the initial story for, was just coincidental. It wasn't intended to have me direct that particular episode. So it's entirely the luck of the draw. But the thing about Deep Space Nine, its emotional core and its character relationships were what it was about. The science fiction part of it, to me, that was ancillary. And those 4 shows that you brought up had very little science fiction elements to it. Change of Heart could be done today because they specifically don't have any technology once Worf and Dax are isolated and alone and not able to communicate anywhere. He has his tricorder to read some stuff and some advanced medical equipment, but basically that story can be told now, or it could have been told in 1800. But it's about character relationships, and the science fiction is ancillary to the storytelling, the character development, and the emotional context of that story and the other 3 episodes that you mentioned. And those are the most satisfying to be involved in because it has a core that we can relate to. It's not about just, even though Rick Berman always said, I just want to blow up something. That's true, but also to have heart and that emotional connection, because that's what show business is about. It's about trying to emotionally connect with an audience and maybe reveal something about the human condition that has validity. So that's what's intriguing to me.
Hey, David, when you were talking about the B plot, that you got the story by credit for, and Aron and Cirroc and Jake and Nog, I was reminded that there's a rumor that I had heard from our associate producer, Dr. Marie Segal, and I had heard this as well before, and maybe you could confirm or deny this. This is a writing question. Originally, this episode had a different B plot in which we meet Nog's mother, Prina Dora. Sounds like this is news to you as well.
well, no, I read what you sent me. You sent me this information, and I have no recollection about it. Again, episodic directors do not have any input in the initial script, and even after the script's written, you can only go in and have what's called a tone meeting where you make sure you understand all the beats of the script, but you don't have any specific input into the drama of a script. So that was news to me. I think the script that Ron Moore wrote was brilliant in the A and the B story, where you had the comedy related to the A story with the what's the game called, the Latinum game, Tango. Yeah, and the fact that what's his name is still carrying the torch for Dax. That Bashir is still carrying the torch for her.
Yeah.
And then contrasting to that which comes later. So it's all about love and relationships, lost love, lost attained, love attained and lost. And so I thought that was a brilliant construct of that A and the B story. So I'm glad they ended up with it in that regard, but I don't know about that about Nog meeting his mother, which I think would have been fun to do. I love Ferengis. I think that Ferengis are more indicative of humans than the humans on Deep Space Nine were. I think the Ferengis are a more realistic version of us as we are today. I think the humans on Deep Space Nine had evolved a little bit above where we are, because we're all basically Ferengis. At least I am.
Mm-hmm.
I have better teeth, though.
Smaller ears.
But
there was a lot of humor in this episode. So it wasn't that the B plot matched the tonality of the A plot, but the A plot was surprisingly funny, more so than I remembered it. I did remember the scene where Worf says, "That is a joke. It is not funny, but I get it." Right? I mean, that's a classic Worf line. The
whole introduction inside the shuttle between the two of them and their interplay and their back and forth set up that whole relationship, and it's very funny. I watched it again a couple days ago, and I cracked up. I thought it was great, and I thought both Terry and Michael were unbelievable. Boy, did they have that nailed, and did they have that relationship nailed? It was really. I don't remember on the set experiencing the same stuff that I was able to see when I watched the episode. Because sometimes when you're directing, you're got blinders on and you're thinking about the next shot and all this other stuff. But when you can sit back years, decades later and watch it, you really, it was a whole new experience for me. It was like I didn't even have any part in it. It was fun for me. I thought it was a great episode, except for one thing.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Cirroc, I know you and I, we both stop. We're like, okay, we got to hear it.
You got to go there. You got to say it.
Well, it's the ending. To me, there was no way that Worf would have gone back.
Oh.
And originally, that was the episode that Terry was going to get killed and die. And to me, the power of that episode would have been so amazing if she had have died. Because here's a man who was so in love, and yet he had to sacrifice his true love for the good of millions of people. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. I can't believe that Worf did that, especially being a Klingon. So I didn't buy it. I wish it had been different. That's the only thing that wasn't right for me in the episode. I did not believe that Worf would do what he did.
Wow.
But hey, Avery says he would have done the same thing, at least as Sisko. So maybe so. But yes, it's heartbreaking. But that's what would have given it such amazing power that he had to go with duty, but not just duty, because that's a kind of a weird construct. But when you have the good of a million versus one person, I go on the side of potentially saving a million people.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one.
Okay,
David.
great.
I actually would do what Worf did, and because I had issues in the beginning with them even taking the mission without getting proper clearance and from Starfleet. So they made a very kind of on the fly, errant decision to just go and do this without getting the clearance and getting and talking to the proper channel. So having said that, in my mind, I was also thinking, okay, well, this could be a setup. This could be, this guy could be trying to, he could be saying that he's going to have this information, but he's really trying to set them up. It may not turn out to be information that is that valuable or critical, and he's just trying to find a way out for himself. He may be a criminal that's trying to escape his own crimes. So I was thinking there could be so many things that go wrong in this transaction or in this deal that I would say I'm not going to risk a maybe for the love of my life for a maybe.
That's a great way to put it, but I don't think that was Worf's thought process. When Worf makes that decision, when he's going through the forest, and I got to do my favorite shot of the episode, which was the 360 around him.
Yes.
I wouldn't have been able to do that if he hadn't have left her there if he had continued on with the mission. So I love doing that shot, but that's where he makes the decision to go back. He's not thinking about, I don't think he's thinking about all of the things that you just brought up. I think he's simply thinking about, can I do this to the woman I love? And to me, it was a selfish act, not a selfless act. I think he was being selfish. And I think if he had the chance to ask Dax at that moment, she would have said, you better get your ass back on that mission and you forget about me. Okay. That's what I think was the reality. Even though what you expressed is right, but I don't think that was Worf's thought process.
And there leads to the OCD that you mentioned earlier, David, when you say when you're directing. That level, ladies and gentlemen, is the kind of thought that David puts into these scripts when he's filming and recording. So he goes through these kinds of conversations with the actors. I'm sure I don't want to speak for you, but I do recall you having kind of in-depth conversations about what Worf would be thinking or what a character would be thinking in a particular moment. So can you explain a little bit about that process, about your OCD and the thoughts that you put into it?
Well, in terms of talking about to the actors about their characters, the principal characters on a series know more about their characters than I will ever know. So I was never presumptuous enough to talk to them about their motivations and stuff. I wish I could say that I had more of those conversations, but when you're shooting episodic television, you a lot of times don't have the time to do that. And you expect the actors to have read the script and read the script, same script you have read, and know what their through line is, and know what their motivation is, and know what their given circumstances are. And if they do that, and they're of the quality of actors that Michael Dorn and Terry Farrell are, you don't have to talk to them about it. It's there on the page, and they get it. So those conversations are rare. I would have those conversations with guest stars, because a lot of times they come into a new situation and they're not sure about the Star Trek world, and they're not really positive about what their place is in the story, even though it should be apparent in the writing. So that I would have conversations on. My OCD more comes with getting all of the emotional information that I want on camera and making the shot portray something and drive the story. Every shot, every camera setup should advance the story in some way. And I always wanted that shot to work 100%. A lot of times you can't get there. But I wanted to make sure that whatever I did translated into emotionally driving the story forward. I hope that answers the question. But
yeah,
we've got to jump to our break in just a second here. But speaking of your favorite shot, I knew that was your favorite shot when I saw that. I was like, oh my God, that must have been so fun to do, the 360. And I couldn't help but look. I'm like, what bunch of trees are they hiding behind? Where's Videoville? And I couldn't find it. I could not find it. So that was really impressive. We're going to take a quick break, and everybody stick around. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule.